My sister had just come back to the country when my husband handed me a divorce document, declaring that our marriage was finished. It felt as though my heart was being ripped apart, yet I signed it despite the anguish. Later, while pregnant with his child, I entered into marriage with his sworn enemy. 4 years later, he glanced at our child, who resembled a miniature version of himself, addressing his rival as Dad. His eyes reddened. The pregnancy test confirmed with 2 lines. Before I could find joy, Andrew flung a sheet of paper at me. "Amelia, let's divorce. Sign this agreement and you'll receive an additional 20 million €." I looked at the sharply dressed, emotionless man before me and couldn't agree. Andrew was growing impatient. When we wed, we had signed a contract stipulating that our marriage would last 3 years and conclude in a month. If I didn't consent now, the contract would automatically terminate in a month, but I wouldn't receive any of the extra 20 million. Taking a deep breath, I responded, "Andrew, what if I told you I'm pregnant?" Admittedly, I was desperate. Even at this juncture, I was attempting to use the child to keep Andrew. His family lacked many heirs, so for the sake of the child, perhaps he would reconsider the divorce. However, Andrew's next words sent chills through me. "I had a vasectomy. The child can't be mine." My mouth opened, but no sound escaped. Andrew was my only man. If it wasn't his, then whose was it? When someone doubts you, no explanation matters. Andrew left, and I stared blankly at the divorce papers. My marriage to Andrew was tumultuous. 3 years ago, the person meant to marry Andrew was my sister, but she left the country just before the wedding to pursue true love, maintaining the alliance between our families. My family arranged for me to marry Andrew in her place, and Andrew's family consented for the sake of appearances. I had admired Andrew for 7 years, so I didn't object. The only one reluctant was Andrew. I wasn't familiar with others' wedding nights, but during mine, Andrew tossed me a contract, the same 3-year marriage agreement. After 3 years, regardless of my wishes, the marriage would end automatically. I felt lost and pained then, but I persevered, hoping that if I treated Andrew well, he would warm up to me. With my sister abroad and me by his side, perhaps one day he would recognize my worth. For 3 years, I cared for him meticulously. He had stomach issues, so I learned recipes. He suffered from headaches and insomnia, leading me to study acupuncture. In hindsight, I was too naive. Who would fall for a nanny? It turned out we were just inflicting pain on each other. Trembling, I tried to sign the divorce papers. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was my mom. "Amelia, your sister is back on the afternoon flight tonight. Come home with Andrew for a family dinner." My mom sounded unusually cheerful. I responded hoarsely. Why did she come back so suddenly? My mom sighed. "I always felt that guy wasn't right, but your sister insisted on marrying him. Sure enough, after they wed, his true nature surfaced. He cheated on her with other women even when she was pregnant, causing her to miscarry. She's back, so she must have realized the truth. That's good, right? Don't bring up the past when you see her. Don't upset her," my mom continued, but I wasn't listening anymore. I suddenly understood why Andrew was so eager to divorce. Olivia was back. My head spun with strange thoughts. It felt like I was living in a book. Olivia was the protagonist, and I was merely a supporting character. I fell for Andrew and married him, but gave up when the heroine returned. Later, Olivia couldn't have children. I surrendered my child to them and watched them live as a happy family. I was stunned. Was I losing my mind? In that moment, I realized I no longer loved Andrew. I set the pen aside, refusing to sign. Why should I step aside just because Olivia returned and let them have their happy ending? Before the divorce, I'd make them uncomfortable, playing the role of the villainous supporting character. I took a cab to Amelia's house. Andrew and Olivia arrived together. Olivia looked more exhausted than 3 years ago, less lively, but still the center of attention wherever she went. Our parents surrounded her with concern. It had rained. Olivia was dry, but Andrew's sleeve was wet. I imagined he had shielded her under an umbrella, letting the rain soak him. With Andrew, he always took the lead while I followed. People can't be compared, right? I suppressed my disappointment and approached Andrew, worried. "Honey, how did your clothes get wet?" I affectionately clung to Andrew's arm. Olivia's gaze shifted over, her eyes empty. Andrew tried to pull away, but I hugged him tightly. Your clothes are wet. You'll catch a cold. You're the backbone of the company. You can't get sick. Let's go upstairs and change. Observing the vain pulse on his forehead, I saw his struggle to maintain composure while preserving his image as a husband. He followed me upstairs. The moment we entered the room, he shoved me aside. Stop clinging to me. You're my husband. Why can't I hold your arm? Andrew took a deep breath. Did you sign the divorce agreement? No, I'm pregnant, I replied. I told you I had a vasectomy. Are you sure the doctor didn't deceive you? You're the only man I've been with these 3 years. Don't try to wiggle out of it, I said coldly. Andrew looked at me with fury. Amelia, what happened to you? For the past 3 years, I've always been the perfect wife and mother in front of Andrew. Gentle and considerate, always listening to him. He's never seen me this harsh and prickly. In reality, the gentle and considerate me was just a facade. I'm the type who never lets things go. If I can't make him fall for me, I'll make sure he bleeds. I need to make up for these years of humility and pain. I folded my arms and stared at him. What's wrong with me? At least I'm better than someone who doesn't even recognize his own trousers. Andrew was so enraged he couldn't speak. Downstairs, I reverted to being gentle. I sat next to Andrew, acting cute. Honey, I want some fish, but it's too far. Can you get it for me? Honey, my water's empty. Get me more, please. I kept bossing Andrew around. Both Andrew and Olivia looked upset. Perhaps Olivia realized that the man who used to follow her around was now someone else's husband. Olivia made an excuse about being tired and left halfway through dinner. Andrew couldn't take it anymore and went to the bathroom. Amelia, your sister just went through a breakup. Acting like that with Andrew might upset her. My mom quietly scolded me. I almost laughed. This family had always revolved around Olivia. When Olivia ran away, they made me marry in her place, never considering my happiness. Now that Olivia was back, she was all they cared about. They didn't see anything wrong with my husband being kind to Olivia. Olivia was like the main character of this world, and with her presence, I was always just a background character. No one cared about me. No one thought about me. I should have been accustomed to it by now. I lifted my head, hiding the sadness in my eyes, and with a pitiful look, I said, Mom and Dad, I'm pregnant. That's why. Before I could finish, I suddenly heard the sound of glass breaking. Raising my head, I saw Olivia standing there empty-handed, her face filled with shock. Andrew rushed out of the bathroom, grabbed my hand, and hurried us out. Back home, Andrew glared at me furiously. I really am pregnant. Isn't it worth mentioning? Ignoring Andrew's murderous glare, I went to the bathroom, recalling Olivia's shock and Andrew's anger. I suddenly felt a strange satisfaction. Perhaps I did have a knack for playing the villain after all. The next day, I slept in until it was bright outside. It was already 8 o'clock. I walked out of the bedroom and saw Andrew sitting on the sofa, looking furious. Andrew is really a picky guy. Normally, I'd prepare his breakfast and coffee, but now I didn't feel like catering to him. Sleeping in felt great. Hungry? I asked. Andrew didn't respond, but his stomach growled. He'll order some food. Andrew looked at me in disbelief. Before the delivery arrived, Andrew slammed the door and left. I couldn't help but feel pleased with myself. Good thing I didn't order for him. In the afternoon, while receiving a spa treatment, I got a call from Andrew's assistant. Amelia, the cafeteria food doesn't suit Andrew's tastes, so he hasn't eaten. Oh, right. I always took care of his lunch, too. Over the years, I've spoiled him with my cooking. Anything else, he barely touches. Don't worry. When he's starving, he'll eat. In the evening, I suddenly received a message, a picture sent by Olivia. The man in the photo, with a high-nose bridge and sharp profile, was Andrew. She quickly retracted it. Sorry, wrong send, Olivia texted. I ignored her. My sister always gets what she wants with a flick of her finger. Now she was using these tactics. I wasn't sad, rather I was quite happy. In the photo, Andrew was sitting in front of a large pot of spicy hot pot. Andrew's stomach isn't great. Skipping breakfast and lunch, then having hot pot for dinner. That's a death sentence. Andrew doesn't eat spicy food, but Olivia loves it. Andrew accommodating her would definitely come at a cost. I had a wonderful sleep. Sure enough, when I woke up, My phone had dozens of missed calls, and the messages were all from Andrew's assistant. "Amelia, Andrew's been hospitalized." I slowly got up and made some porridge. After eating breakfast, I took the leftover porridge to the hospital. Andrew was in a VIP room. I had barely reached the door when I saw Andrew sitting on the bed, looking pale and expectantly towards the door. When he saw me, his face turned sour, and he looked away. I walked in. "Amelia, here." The assistant quickly took the porridge from my hands. "Andrew was so eager to see you." Andrew seemed to have been looking forward to it, but not for me. "This porridge smells so good. Andrew's lucky." Andrew's pale face seemed to improve a bit. I brought the leftovers, not wanting to waste them, and offered them to Andrew. I said slowly. The assistant was stunned too. Andrew's face turned livid. "Get out." I enjoyed watching Andrew's angry expression, knowing he was unhappy. I felt at ease and turned to leave the room. Just then, I saw someone at the door, a tall man with a face that rivaled Andrew's. I recognized him. He was Andrew's archenemy, Lucas. He had a very refined appearance, but was a real scumbag. Whatever Andrew liked, Lucas had to take it. Lucas had been trying to be Yane's backup for a while. Later, after I married Andrew, Lucas tried to hit on me too. Sometimes, I even wondered if Lucas was interested in Andrew himself. I stared at him, eavesdropping. Lucas nonchalantly replied, "How is it eavesdropping when I'm listening openly?" "Amelia, making that man so mad feels good." "Huh." I looked at him blankly. "Stop calling me that. It's disgusting. Get lost, Amelia. Why are you suddenly so hot-headed?" But his eyes, filled with an inexplicable tenderness, revealed the person I knew. What he said was so baffling. I just thought he was being slick and stepped right on Lucas's foot, causing him to yelp in pain. I left satisfied. I'm definitely getting a divorce from Andrew, plus I want an extra $2 million. I'm dragging this out just to disgust Andrew and Olivia. But the child in my belly... I hesitated for a few days and finally decided to terminate the pregnancy. I made an appointment and went to the hospital for a series of tests. The doctor looked at the report. "Amelia, your physical condition means you can't have an abortion." I was shocked. Actually, last night, I dreamt about that book again. In the dream, I was like a reader flipping through the book. Andrew was the male lead, Olivia was the female lead, Lucas was the villain. Lucas's end was miserable. After bankruptcy, he had reduced to picking up trash on the streets. As for the abortion, it mirrored the plot in the book. The doctor also told me I couldn't have an abortion. If I insisted, it could be life-threatening. I was already somewhat hesitant. After all, this is my bloodline. With the doctor's advice, I decided to keep the child. However, I wasn't going to give the baby to Andrew and Olivia like in the book. I'd raise the child on my own. As soon as I left the doctor's office, I saw Lucas again. Lucas looked at me, then glanced at the obstetric sign. "Amelia, you're pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? I could have come with you to the hospital. I'm busy, but I'd always make time for you and the baby," Lucas said with deep emotion, his words laden with hidden meanings. I stepped on Lucas's foot again, this time grinding my heel, watching his handsome face contort in pain. I left satisfied. Joy turned to misfortune. Perhaps seeing Lucas suffer made me too happy, and I accidentally fell down the steps. Instinctively, I held my belly. Vaguely, I felt someone rush towards me. Then I was lifted up. Doctor, come quickly." It seemed like Lucas's voice, but why did he sound so anxious? I fainted shortly after. When I woke up, I saw Lucas sitting by my bed. He was on a low stool with his long legs awkwardly placed. Noticing I had awakened, Lucas narrowed his eyes at me. "Awake, Amelia. Do you have an underdeveloped cerebellum or something? Can't even walk without falling?" Lucas mocked me mercilessly. I was certain the Lucas who anxiously called for the doctor was just my imagination. Suddenly, Lucas's demeanor changed. "Amelia, your face looks terrible. Are you hurt? Let me blow on it for you." At that instant, a figure stepped between us. Andrew grabbed Lucas's hand, his face extremely ugly. "This is my wife," Andrew said coldly, wanting to crush Lucas with his gaze. "So Amelia has a husband. I thought she had come alone for a checkup because her hubby was dead." Lucas retorted. Andrew pressed his lips together and glared at Lucas. Lucas wasn't afraid at all. Get lost, Andrew responded coldly. Andrew, all you can say is that one word. Are you a broken record? Lucas mocked him, pushing Andrew to the brink before finally leaving. My mood lifted. Even though Lucas was annoying, he was kind of cute when angered by Andrew. Suddenly, Andrew glared at me, his face extremely displeased. I touched my face and realized I was smiling. Lucas wants everything that's mine. He's good to you because you're my wife. Don't flatter yourself, Andrew said coldly. At that moment, a brilliant idea popped into my head to really piss off Andrew. With a troubled expression, I said, "What should I do? I think I've fallen for Lucas." "Andrew, he'll sign the divorce papers when I get back." Sure enough, my words made Andrew's face turn ashen. Back home, I searched for the divorce papers but couldn't find them. I called Andrew. "Where are the divorce papers?" There was a pause before he replied, "I don't know." Having been with Andrew for 3 years, I knew him well. He was lying. He had hidden the divorce papers, forced me to sign them, and now was hiding them so I couldn't. It seemed Andrew didn't care for Olivia that much after all. For the sake of his pride, he chose not to divorce for now. But I didn't mind. Andrew wouldn't hold out for long. In the following days, I carried on with life, eating and drinking as I pleased. I also planned my post-divorce life. Find a small town, open a little shop, and live simply. Suddenly, I got a call from my mom, asking me to come home. When I returned, I saw my mom, dad, and Olivia all sitting there looking serious. As soon as she saw me, my mom came over and grabbed my hand. "Amelia, I know you haven't been happy these years with Andrew. He treats you poorly, like a maid." She looked heartbroken. I suddenly wanted to laugh, so she knew all along. I used to think she just didn't care, like when Olivia had a minor bump and they rushed her to the hospital. But when I had a fever all night, no one noticed. What's worse, she knew but didn't care. Both daughters, but Olivia was her precious treasure, while I was just a burden. "Amelia, maybe you should get a divorce. If she's suggesting a divorce, it's definitely not for my sake. She must have other motives." I glanced at Olivia. "Yeah, Andrew never liked you anyway. Why torture each other?" Olivia said. I spoke up. "Andrew likes you." "So, Olivia, you mean we get divorced and you marry Andrew?" Olivia didn't respond, but it was clear that's what she meant. I looked at my mom and dad. They clearly had the same idea. No expectations, no disappointment. I rubbed my belly. "If we get divorced, what happens to my child?" "Amelia, stop pretending. The child isn't Andrew's. Andrew didn't call you out to save face, so don't push your luck," Olivia said bluntly. Looks like Olivia couldn't wait. $5 million, I whispered. Olivia froze for a moment. "What?" "Give me $5 million. An ill-divorced Andrew. Mom and Dad had spoiled Olivia. Everything in Amelia's house was meant for her. $5 million was nothing to her. I had to raise my child alone. The more money, the better. When Andrew finds out he was sold for $5 million, he'd be pissed." Olivia gritted her teeth and nodded. "Call Andrew over." Then Olivia made a call. Andrew arrived quickly. "Andrew, where's the divorce agreement?" I asked. Andrew glared at me. "You're in such a hurry to be with Lucas." "Yeah, I can't wait. Even if I could, the baby can't." "Let's get divorced, Andrew." Andrew pressed his lips together, clearly not wanting to divorce. "Andrew, since Amelia insists on a divorce, just go through with it," Olivia said. Andrew called his secretary. Soon the divorce agreement arrived. I signed it swiftly. "Andrew, remember, I'm the one who doesn't want you. Also, remember to send the breakup fee to my account." I signed and walked away without looking back. "Andrew, goodbye." I wandered aimlessly down the street. I thought I wouldn't feel sad, but my heart felt empty, like wind blowing through a hollow space. I had already lost faith in Andrew. From today, I not only lost Andrew, but also my family. In reality, they never cared about me. Today, I realized this truth. No one loves me. No one cares about me. I'm just an insignificant side character. Suddenly, a Maybach stopped in front of me. The door opened and a long leg stepped out. It was that refined rogue, Lucas. Lucas got out and blocked my path. "Divorced!" I glared at him. How did he get the news so quickly? Olivia told me. Amelia, now no one can stop us from being together, Lucas said passionately. You're crazy. You did all this to get back at Andrew. Pregnant, wanting to be a stepdad, Andrew's kid calling me dad. Just thinking about it feels good. Lucas rubbed his chin. All right, it's clear now Lucas is indeed crazy. I walked past him. Lucas continued to tell me the benefits of marrying him. I was speechless, but it did ease my heartache a little. I left the city where I had lived for over 20 years and moved to a small town thousands of miles away. New people, new places, everything was fresh. I wanted a fresh start, but as soon as I got off the plane, I saw a familiar figure. Lucas was standing there smiling at me. What a coincidence, Amelia. You didn't follow me, did you? He said, echoing what I wanted to say. I arrived at the house I had bought online. As I was about to enter, the opposite door opened. Lucas's face appeared, looking exaggerated. Amelia, you're living opposite me, still saying you're not stalking me? Just admit you're into me. I entered and slammed the door loudly. The house was immaculate and ready. A cleaning service had already tidied up, so I just did a little organizing and sat down. When my phone rang, I picked it up and immediately hung up. It was Andrew's number. Wrong number, I blocked it. Soon after, another unfamiliar number called. Amelia, I'm Andrew's friend. Andrew got drunk. Can you come pick him up? Before, when Andrew got drunk at social events, no matter how far, I went to pick him up. But now that we were divorced, I called his secretary. I sat and hung up, blocking that number too. The blacklist now had 2 people, and it was just the beginning. In the following days, people around me, Andrew kept calling me, saying he was in the hospital with a stomach ache or that he had a cold. Even bizarre things like Andrew crying because he missed me. Such nonsense. I had already set him and Olivia up, so I suspected they weren't letting me move on. I changed my number and created a new account. Finally, I had some peace. I opened a flower shop downstairs. Welcome. I looked up and rolled my eyes. Lucas, dressed in a suit and wearing gold-rimmed glasses, looked very refined. Lucas picked a bunch of roses. $99. I told him the price. After he paid, he handed me the flowers. I didn't take them. He placed them in the vase on the counter himself. Lucas was persistent. He really went out of his way to replace Andrew as a father, quite fitting for the main villain in the story. And no wonder Andrew made him pick up trash. At first, I refused. Later, I became numb. He could do whatever he wanted. Amelia, your flowers have arrived, I heard someone shout and rushed out to get them. Suddenly, a car veered out of control and came straight at me. In that instant, my mind went completely blank until someone pushed me to the ground. It took me a while to realize what had happened. It was Lucas, who had always been a neat freak, even when taking out the trash. But now, his gold-rimmed glasses were gone, and his hair was a mess. He looked awful, yet somehow I felt closer to him. Lucas, get up. Are you hurt? I asked anxiously. I'm not as clumsy as you. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. A little car can't hurt me, he said with a smirk. Lucas sat up, his handsome face twisted in pain. I think my leg's broken. I quickly called an ambulance. While waiting, I saw his twisted leg and became so flustered my eyes turned red. It's just a small injury. I won't die, Lucas said, acting nonchalant. Suddenly he looked confused. Why are you crying? Amelia, don't cry. I'm really okay. Look, I can jump. He tried to get up. I held him down. If you move, you'll cry even harder. He immediately stopped moving. At the hospital, the doctor treated Lucas's wound and ran some tests. Luckily, it was just his leg, and it wasn't very serious. Just a minor surgery and a 3-month recovery. I stayed with Lucas during the surgery. I hired a nurse for him. I visited him every day with homemade food. The same guy who wanted to jump earlier now lay in bed like a sick, fragile beauty. Amelia, I want some water. Amelia, my hand hurts. Feed me. Amelia, my shoulders are sore. Massage them. I tried to ignore him. His handsome face wrinkled in pain. My leg hurts. And for whom did I get hurt? I sat by his bed and massaged his shoulders. That's when Andrew walked in. He knocked hard on the room's door. I looked up and saw his face dark with anger. He looked much more weathered and tired than the last time I saw him. Andrew didn't say a word. He just grabbed me and pulled me outside. "Andrew, take your filthy hands off my girlfriend," Lucas shouted. "Let go, or I'll fight you." Lucas struggled to get out of bed. "Stay in bed. If you get up, no dinner for you, I warn you." "I'll talk to Andrew for a bit. He'll be right back." Lucas obediently laid back down. Andrew's face darkened even more. He took a deep breath to control his anger. We stepped outside. I looked at him. "Did you come to invite me to your wedding with Olivia? I'm not interested in attending an ex's wedding, Amelia." "I didn't marry Olivia," Andrew said. His voice was hoarse. "Then what do you want?" Andrew didn't respond. I became impatient and turned to go back in. "Amelia, let's get back together." Andrew finally said, "I've been thinking about you all this time. I dream about you. I realize now I love you. Losing you made me see my feelings clearly." Andrew's voice turned hurtful. "Why didn't you take my calls? Even when my secretary called, you didn't pick up." Someone as proud as Andrew saying such things must have taken a lot of courage, but I wasn't touched. In fact, I found it laughable. "Sorry, I don't love you anymore. I have someone I like now. Please don't bother us." Andrew got anxious. "Amelia, don't trust Lucas. He doesn't love you. He's just competing with me," I sneered. "When I was sick and called you, you said you had to work overtime. A few days ago, when I almost got hit by a car, Lucas shielded me without thinking about his safety. Do you think you're in any position to say Lucas doesn't love me?" Andrew was stunned and speechless. "Andrew, we're divorced. There's no going back. Go find your Olivia," I said, and turned to enter the room. Andrew stood there, looking like a lost child, unsure of what to do. But I felt no pity. Everyone has to face the consequences of their choices and actions. He's 26, not 6. No one stays in one place forever. No one will always tolerate him. Once you miss your chance, it's gone. Back in the room, Lucas's loud voice greeted me. "Amelia, my leg hurts. Come kiss it. A kiss will make it better." I grabbed his ear. "Ouch! I meant my face, not my lips. Not in front of everyone." A week later, Lucas was discharged. I hired a nurse to take care of him for 3 months. I often visited him. After 3 months, according to the doctor, he should be able to walk freely, but his recovery was oddly slow. He would wail if his foot touched the ground. Something was off. He had a lean, muscular build. Once, I accidentally saw his 8-pack abs. He clearly worked out regularly. How could someone in such good shape not recover in 3 months? "Amelia, my legs are so sore. Come and massage them," Lucas said as usual. Suddenly, I clutched my stomach. "Lucas, what's wrong?" "Stomach ache? I'll take you to the hospital." I glared at him. Lucas instantly realized he was busted. He started grinning. Oh man, how did my legs suddenly get better? Is this the power of love? I reached out and pinched his ear. Lucas stayed with me through checkups and delivery. On the day the baby was born, he was clumsy but careful around the baby. "Come on, sweetie, say daddy." I was a new mom, pretty clumsy myself. Lucas grew alongside me. A few days later, he was already good at changing diapers. When the baby turned 1, the first word they learned was mama. The second word was dada. Lucas was happy the whole day. It was the first time I saw someone so enthusiastic about being a dad to someone else's child. When the baby turned 2, I got together with Lucas. When the baby turned 3, Lucas and I got married. And the baby was our flower girl. This wedding was very low-key. We only invited Lucas's close family and friends. Lucas placed the wedding ring on my finger. I turned my head and vaguely saw a figure in the crowd. I was stunned for a second. Quickly, I snapped out of it and smiled happily at Lucas. I am so lucky to have someone who loves me in this life. I walked out of the chapel. In the corner, there were 2 figures, one big and one small. I nervously approached. Andrew was handing a candy to the chubby little kid. The cute little kid hadn't fully developed their features yet, but they looked a lot like Andrew, a clear mini version of him. The little one didn't take the candy. In a childish voice, they said, "Mommy and Daddy said not to take things from strangers." Andrew stiffened and his eyes visibly reddened. I held the little one's hand. Lucas walked over too. I handed the little one to Lucas. "Go play with Daddy." Lucas was a bit reluctant. Watching Andrew warily, I gave him a reassuring look. Only then did Lucas take the little one away. Amelia, Andrew had aged a lot in these 4 years. He didn't marry Olivia. Olivia went back abroad, got back together with her ex, and they kept tormenting each other. Andrew never remarried. I heard he drank a lot and lived a very wasted life. His career took a nosedive too. Maybe it was the butterfly effect. I didn't choose to be a sacrificial saint, so everything changed and didn't follow the novel's plot. That kid, Andrew's voice was a bit rushed. It doesn't matter anymore. Andrew, don't show up in front of me again, otherwise you'll never find me. After I said that, I turned and walked away. The man behind me let out a sob. I didn't look back. I took one step at a time toward my love. I thought about the first time I met Lucas. It wasn't long after my new marriage with Andrew when he stopped me. Miss, didn't we know each other in a past life? Those memories, which I once found absurd and buried deep, turned sweet as I stayed with Lucas. I often teased him about it, calling him cheesy. Lucas would always grab me and kiss me until I was out of breath. Amelia, actually, we did meet in a past life. You forgot, but it's okay. I remember it. Lucas's epilogue. My name is Lucas. I had a childhood sweetheart named Amelia. We grew up together. Same kindergarten, same elementary school, same high school. When we got to college, she enrolled in a school in the South. She had excellent grades. No matter how hard I tried, I could only get into a school in the same city as hers. 2 schools, one in the South, one in the North. I often took a few hours bus ride to see her. As long as I could see her, those hours didn't matter. In junior year, I saw her less because I started a business to make money. I wanted to propose after graduation so we could have a small home in that city. I got lucky. A big company took interest in my project. By graduation, I had saved enough to buy a house. When I brought the engagement ring to propose to her, I watched as a big truck hit her. My world turned red. Even watching them cover her with a white sheet, I couldn't believe she was gone. I searched for her everywhere. Friends said I was crazy. I knew I wasn't. I was certain my girl was out there, waiting for me somewhere. I searched every city. Then one day, I couldn't go any further. I lay down in the woods, letting the leaves fall on my face. My vision blurred vaguely. The bright sunlight seemed to form a familiar figure. My girl reached out to me. She came to get me. I smiled. When I woke up, I was in a luxurious bed. I was me, and yet not me. I'm Lucas, born to one of the city's 2 major families. I had an arch-enemy named Andrew. My life goal seemed to be to make Andrew's life difficult. If Andrew was upset, I was happy. I always felt like I had forgotten something important. Until one day, I saw a girl staring softly at Andrew. She felt inexplicably familiar. My legs moved on their own. Miss, didn't we know each other in a past life? The girl glared at me and ran away. Those lost memories began to resurface. Joy bubbled up inside me, spreading through my whole body. I felt like I could fly. I had found my girl.